very excited. It was my first day at school. After hearing a lot about how school is for my brother, I was actually finally getting to go to school. With my new bag, my new pink shoes, lots of energy, all of 3.5, I set out for school. All set to make a lot of new friends. When I reached my class on the first day, I just went and sat in one place, and I was, me being the happy person that I am, I was smiling at everybody else in class. And everybody was smiling back at me, but nobody was actually coming and sitting with me. I found that very strange. And after some time I noticed that they were not actually smiling at me, they were laughing at me. And me being the child, like I said, 3.5 years old, never been in a situation where there are a lot of people around, obviously tears started streaming down my cheeks. And at the same moment, a big boy from my class, he just walked up to me and asked me, "Hey, what's your name?" And I said my name. And he said, "Okay, so you're a boy, then why are you dressed like a girl?" pointing at my shoes, and started laughing at me. And there I was, crying, all of 3.5, with nobody to look at. Good afternoon everybody, my name is Aswin Menon, and the topic that I've chosen to talk to you guys today is gender fluidity. So gender is something which all of us have a very different idea about, right? So as we go through the presentations, you'll realize that there are some misconceptions that we all have regarding gender. Some references where we use it in the wrong place. So although it is on gender fluidity, we're also going to focus a lot more in detail on gender as a broad topic as well. Now, let's first look at what is really the meaning of gender. Gender is actually nothing but identity of a person based on a social construct, right? So now if you look at when we apply for a passport or when we apply for a college, different multiple application forms that we have gender as a column, right? But something to be aware of is that there is no connection between gender and the biological sex of a person, where the biological sex of a person can be male or female, but gender of a person is nothing, like I mentioned earlier, it's an identity of a person based on the social construct, and it can be different for different places, right? For example, in some parts of the world, there can be something that can be recognized as masculine, something that males would do, whereas in other parts of the world, it might be something totally different, what a man can do and what a woman can do, right? So that's something that I want you guys to get from this slide, which is the meaning of gender is nothing that identity of a person based on the social construct of the society that he or she is a part of. Now, another very interesting aspect is what are the different types of gender. All of us, like I said, now I'm sure if I open this question out to you, the first reply I would get is male and female. But like I said, male and female are the biological sex of a person, whereas the different types of gender, we have 3 broad categories of gender. First being masculine, second being feminine, and third being the third gender, which is transgender, right? And again, in like multiple parts of the world, it's not still considered. Like the third gender is not something that they actively consider, where they still try to categorize the transgenders into male or female depending on their physical aspects. Okay? So now that's with respect to the different types of gender. And another common misconception that people have is gender connected to sexuality by any chance? Right? Because now, if there is a man, physically a biological sex of a man, that person who behaves in a feminine manner, the first assumption that all of us would make that he is a homosexual. Right? Because that's how we have been told right from the time when we were really small, that if somebody is acting feminine with a person, sexuality is also reversed. Same, if there's a woman, a female, who is feminine in nature, then we identify that person as a heterosexual, or somebody who is attracted to the opposite gender. Whereas this is something that is there's no relation between gender and sexuality at all. And to explain this further, I'm going to just show you guys the explanations of sex, gender, and sexuality. Earlier there was only gender and sexuality because we didn't even consider the whole biological sex aspect of it. Now there are 3 things to consider: there's biological sex, gender, and sexuality. The biological sex of a person is determined by the physical characteristics of the person, right? And there are 2 types, which is basically male and female. Second is gender, like I've already mentioned multiple times, based on the cultural background or the social construct of the society that they're living in. And it can be masculine, feminine, transgender, and one more, I missed out on one point, it can be male, female, or intersex. And intersex is somebody who has body parts of both male and female, the reproductive organs of both male and female. Even that is considered, it's not very progressive at that stage still in the world, but that's also considered as a type of sex. Moving on to sexuality, totally depend on who the person is sexually attracted to. If the person is attracted to the same sex person, that makes him or her a heterosexual. Again, if it's the same, a homosexual, and so on, bisexual and all of that as well. Right? So what I want to mention here is also that it has no relation, like I mentioned to you earlier. A person who belongs to, let's say, the male sex and is feminine nature can totally be a heterosexual that is attracted to the opposite gender. And I want to give an example here. So I briefly worked with an organization called Enfold, and one of the trainers there mentioned that her daughter was in a relationship. So her daughter, this was in the US, so her daughter was in a relationship with somebody who was a transgender. And when this came to me, I was actually trying to dwell on how that's even possible. So I was like, how did that happen? So she explained, she broke it down for me. She told me that, so there was a boy, he did his gender correction surgery, became a woman, and now that woman is a lesbian. And in my mind, I'm like, but why? If the person is already, attracted, which is where this whole confusion comes. So there are n number of permutation combination that's possible between these three, and it's not possible for any of us to define a person based on just one aspect. We cannot make an assumption on the gender and sexuality just based on the sex, or vice versa. On the sexuality based on gender, and basically any of the three categories, you cannot make an assumption looking at just one aspect of it. Yes. Now that brings me to a question of, is gender a choice of an individual or the decision of the society? It's very much a decision of the society, because recently I was reading a blog that was written by an American psychologist, and she was mentioning that the word gender is just so grammatical, it has no relevance to anybody. For example, me, how a person can probably categorize me is as a male, and that is not my gender, that is my biological sex. That's a good identification mechanism for me as well as a person, that can come on my passport and my applications. But what the person feels inside, or what if the person is feminine or masculine, that has nothing to do with the society at all. It's completely dependent on the person. But how it works in a society is, we are people who actually make judgments about that person is feminine, that person is masculine, right? All of those judgments, and this actually comes into some level of judgment when we take calls on, how categorizing people and all of that stuff comes in. We take these calls like that, which should not be the case at all, because biological sex can be something which can be a base of categorization, but gender should absolutely be something which is a person's individual choice. And it should be allowed to change. If the person feels that today I feel like a man, or today I feel like I'm exhibiting the characteristics of a man, then I should be able to even move fluidly between the genders as well, without getting into that whole bracket of, but I'm supposed to be like this. The society expects me to be like this, and hence I'm going to be like that, which creates a whole cycle of trauma, depression, all of those things as well. Now, all of us are aware a lot about masculinity and femininity, because we have all grown up in a society where they talk a lot about the binary system, which is basically male, female, masculine, feminine. But not a lot of us actually have gone into the details of how it is to be a transgender. So I'm going to share a small story with you guys about this child called Sky. His name is Skylar, he's from North Korea. So I saw a video recently of his mother talking about his story. So Skylar was born as a girl in North Korea in a very, very orthodox family. And he has an elder sister as well. And she also came out as a transgender. So basically the parents had two transgender children, and they were both born in a very orthodox family. The mother was somebody who could not absolutely take it at all. She did not accept the children, and they were very young. As you can see this picture, this is the photograph, the latest photograph of the child. And the mother could not actually accept the children for what they were. It took a lot of time to understand what they were going through. It did not provide any support, and it resulted in this child actually going through a lot of depression and ultimately committing suicide. And this story of this child, about how the mother took so much of time to actually come to terms with it, and in parallel did not support the child, came as one of the biggest insights for the mother later on, because when you think about it, if I'm a mother of a child who's a transgender, I only think about myself of what the society thinks about the situation, because that's what I see visible, like everybody's going to pass judgments. Whereas the child actually goes through a myriad of emotions which the mother was not able to recognize, which resulted in this child committing suicide. And it's not really just the story of one child. This is a story of a lot of children who actually go through depression, distress because of all of these things. And if you look at it, 41% of transgender children actually commit suicide. And it's a huge number. And this is based on a survey in the United States of America. And if you look at it, 64% of the young trans people are bullied. The story that I shared with you in the beginning, I studied in a very reputed school in Cochin. And there were multiple children who were very different from the others. And that did not stop. And the teachers also knew about it. But then the society is so strong on these kind of understandings of gender and biological sex and sexuality that nobody gave any attention to it, and those children end up getting more and more bullied, and this leads to a lot of depression and distress, especially when you're 10 and 11. Right? Moving on to 73% of the trans people who are harassed in public. And I'm sure all of us have seen instances of this in our daily life. When we are at a junction where we have transgenders who come and beg, there are people who behave very rudely to them, policemen who actually end up sexually abusing them. Right? So they are one community which actually ends up getting harassed and physically abused a lot of times. And also, again, something very shocking, 21% of the whole trans people are so scared, they have so much of fear in them on judgment that they even refrain from stepping out of their houses. Right? Now, that brings me to something which is called gender dysphoria. Okay, so dysphoria, the meaning of dysphoria, the word meaning is distress. So, gender dysphoria is a case where an individual feels depression or distress because of the gender and biological sex that is attached to the person at birth. Okay, if it's not conforming with what is their identity as a person, that if it leads to stress and depression, that leads to something called gender dysphoria. Earlier, gender dysphoria was actually considered to be the same as gender identity disorder. But then it's been moved away from that because gender dysphoria happens to people only who face distress or some kind of depression, because there are transgenders who are very happy in the community, who feel accepted, and they are very happy in themselves. So those people will not be having gender dysphoria, whereas this refers to a section of people who feel depressed because of the social acceptance and all of that stuff, and that's why, and that is a word meaning of gender dysphoria. Now there are three types of dysphoria. So when a patient comes to a psychologist for gender dysphoria, there are basically three categories that the person is questioned on. One is body dysphoria, social dysphoria, and mind dysphoria. Body dysphoria is a case where the person feels uncomfortable in his or her body and feels a sense of shame, or they feel a sense of hatred towards their own body, and that is called body dysphoria. Second is social dysphoria, which is very common among transgenders, which is about how other people, the society, consider them, how they see them, which is meaning of social dysphoria. And mind dysphoria is something which is where their mind, their thoughts are not in accordance with their identity that is given to them by the society. And for a person who is going through gender dysphoria, if any of the two out of these three are rampant for a period of 6 months, which is consistent, then the person is diagnosed and treated for gender dysphoria. Now, in my topic, what I want to focus on was more about children, because as an organization in Make a Difference, we work with children, and it's very important for us to understand how these things affect our children. Now, if you can take a quick read of what are the things that you commonly see in children who have gender dysphoria. Some things that you would have seen probably in some classmate of ours when we were small. They like to make friends with the opposite gender. They generally like playing games that are closer to the opposite gender. For example, if it's a boy, they play on swings or play hide and seek rather than playing football. It's a big deal, you know. Why is a person behaving like that? Again, a sense to cross-dress. That's another thing that's very rampant. Also, a repeated desire, which can be a personal desire or a public desire to be the other gender and not continue the same gender that I'm attached to at this point. So these are some of the things that are common in children who have gender dysphoria. And it's, so GSM, so basically Diagnostic and Statistics Manual for Mental Disorders 4 actually says that gender dysphoria is not actually a sexual disorder. It's something which can be treated in children, and if you actually build a platform for them where they can express themselves more well, or in a much more fluid manner, a gender fluid environment, then the children can actually be more open about it, and they will not have to go through the tough, rigorous counseling sessions that adults have to go through if they have gender dysphoria. Now, going to what is gender fluidity. A gender fluid person is somebody who does not conform to either male or female and identifies himself, or does not use words like he or she to refer to themselves. It's somebody who actually feels that they can actually float around in multiple genders or sexual or sexes depending on the situation. But here, like I said, I'm going to be talking more about children. So what I'm going to be talking about is how can we create a gender neutral environment, a fluid environment for children. And one big challenge for that is actually gender stereotypes that exist. One big reason why we should have gender fluidity in our families, in our schools, is gender stereotype that is already existing. Now, if you take a quick look at this list, you can see girls like pink, boys like blue, right? Girls like dolls and dollhouses, Legos are for boys, right? Shouldn't dance or ballet, boys shouldn't do that. Girls should not play football, they should just play with their swings. These are some of the common thoughts that we have in our society right now with respect to gender stereotypes, and this really affects not just the child, not just children who have transgender nature, but also children who are studying with transgenders. When they get these kind of ideas right from the beginning, they actually start thinking that children who are with them are not like them, and the whole series of bullying starts. So I'm going to just quickly close the conversation by telling you guys about simple ways to create an environment of gender fluidity within our homes, schools, and even in our math classes for that matter. One is the concept of choice. Making sure that you give the children a sense of choice. So one example I want to take is I had a conversation with Loy yesterday, and Loy was telling me about how they have three children, out of which 2 children are quite old. So when the children were small, they gave both cars and dolls to both the boy child and the girl child. And it was from a space where they can choose what they want, and there is no stigma attached to that. You're a boy, you should not be playing with dolls. Or, you're a boy, why are you crying? All of these kind of things, giving them a sense of choice without thinking about their biological sex is something that we should be more open towards. Second is avoiding conversations that bring in gender stereotypes. Right? Again, which is on the lines of, it can be very subtle about, you're a girl, like I mentioned earlier, you're a boy, why are you crying? Be a man. Don't run like a girl. We hear these things very, very often. It comes very naturally to us. Because some of these things are things that we have heard in our childhood, and it sticks on for generations. And this really brings in a very unhealthy environment for children who might be transgenders. Support your children through whatever choices they make. Very, very important. To let them know that you are there for them, no matter what they decide. That's something that we really have to bring into our society right now. And the final one is to be empathetic to children who might not be like them. Which is, now if I have my own children, or let's say when I'm talking to children, making sure that they understand that everybody may not be the same, and you need to be empathetic towards those children. You don't need to make fun of them, right? Because all of us have different choices, have different personalities, and there's nothing to make fun of or be ashamed about. Now, this is the last slide I have basically. So this is there's 2 days back when I was preparing on this topic, I actually got to know about a latest update from the Health Ministry of India, which actually says that, you can just take a quick read, where they're actually going to make the society that we live in, the schools that our children are going to, a lot more gender fluid, where they're not going to attach labels like boys will be allowed to play football, or girls should be doing this. So thing is that even the society that we're living in is actually progressing towards a more gender fluid environment where people are allowed to make their own choices without thinking of what are the repercussions of it, or what the society thinks about them making those choices. It's a very, very brave step by the Health Ministry of India, which actually is in accordance with the talk today. So that brings me to the end of my talk. Thank you so much.